So guys, like I said, we got a lot going on in the news today. I have a very special guest who I will bring on. Bitcoin continues to trade sideways as the IMF puts pressure on Argentina to effectively ban crypto assets. Elizabeth Warren is, well, being Elizabeth Warren. Elon Musk is having apparently a Twitter spat with Chechens and the president of Russia. And what the hell is going on in this world? There's so much I want to talk about. I have a special guest today, James Harris from CryptoCompare, to go over all of this and to tell us why it's so difficult and important to accurately price Bitcoin. You guys don't want to miss it. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and use your elbow to smash the like button with your second finger. Figure it out. It works 60% of the time, every single time. So I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Friday heading into the weekend. I know for some of you that are watching, you are already celebrating the weekend. And frankly, I am jealous of all of you. I've been up since like 3 o'clock in the morning today, kid things going on, absolute mayhem. I am ready for it to be the weekend. But the reality is, if you're a parent, you know that the weekend is actually the work week. That's what they don't tell you when you have kids. You go to work during the week and it's really kind of relaxing. You know, you get to zone out. Now on the weekend, you have to actually full time take care of these human people and keep them entertained and from breaking things. So maybe I should actually enjoy my Friday before that gets started. So guys, like I said, we got a lot going on in the news today. I have a very special guest who I will bring on in just a few minutes. But it seems that we're back talking about what's going on with nation states and Bitcoin. As you can see here, Argentine Congress approves IMF debt deal that would discourage crypto usage. Why is this a big deal, right? It doesn't outwardly seem like a terrible thing, but for anyone who understands, I guess, the history of the IMF and their involvement in effectively predatory loans all over the world, the IMF is like the credit card company with the 25% interest that you can never pay back to the individual, right? What they do is they basically go into countries that are distressed. They offer a loan that can never be paid back, and then they hold that loan over you for the rest of time to gain control of everything that they desire to in your country. How it does. IMF, World Bank, CIA, United States government, conspiracy theory, whatever you want. They've been doing it for probably 60, 70 years already. And that's what's happening here in Argentina. This matters to us because Argentina is one of the countries where cryptocurrency is legitimately being used to hedge against problematic inflation and for the citizens to actually be able to transact and store value, right? And a lot of people, obviously, we look to Bitcoin and we say, Bitcoin is this amazing inflation hedge. It's the asset that we need to buy when we have inflation. I mean, year over year, Argentina has about 53% inflation February to February. Much more problematic than anything, obviously, that we're seeing in the United States. And we would love to say that that means they're going to rush into Bitcoin, but the reality is that they're rushing into stable coins, right? They're rushing into stable coins because as much as we want it to be Bitcoin, the reality is that most people in the world, when they live in an economy with high inflation, want access to dollars and they can't get it. Stable coins have now become the proxy for getting dollars, and you don't need to worry about where to put them in the bank, right? I've had guests on from Argentina who said that Argentine people will get a deposit in the bank, immediately take it out, go into the street, exchange it for dollars at a predatory rate, and then go take those dollars and put them in the safety deposit box in the same bank rather than in the bank account, right? Absolutely broken system, but at least the people have a way. Well, now the IMF is saying, yeah, we'll give you that $45 billion loan you want, but you're going to have to effectively ban cryptocurrencies if you're going to do it. And a lot of people looked at Argentina as the likely successor to El Salvador, making Bitcoin legal tender, making some sort of legitimized move for cryptocurrency. Now, obviously, people are believing that that might be Mexico. Here's what the quote was. I mean, if this isn't vague word salad, I don't really know what it is. The provision entitled Strengthening Financial Resilience says, quote, to further safeguard financial stability, we are taking important steps to discourage the use of cryptocurrencies with a view to preventing money laundering, informality, and disintermediation. If you guys can figure out what that actually means, feel free to send me a memo, tweet me, text me, because that just basically says, yeah, crypto is in the way of what we want to do. And if you guys want that loan, we're going to have to go ahead and stop using crypto. Now, the next story, oh, she's back. She's back. Our favorite two haircuts, right? I mean, Janet Yellen, look at her. I don't like to mock people, but like that's the Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber, right? Put the bowl on the head and you do the things around the side. Yeah, and this is basically like if they made a wax statue in Madame Tussauds Museum of Elizabeth Warren, this is probably exactly how it would look. It would look like she's talking down to you at all times, right? Well, once again, she's back at it with the sanctions. Elizabeth Warren's like the woman who like walks into a restaurant and they say, "One moment, ma'am, your reservation's ready." And she goes, "Do you know who I am?" Right? She's the lady that you invite to the party and everyone's super pissed that you invited her, but you had to invite her and she ruins the whole vibe because she just lectures everybody at the party when you're supposed to be having fun. I don't know, man. I can't get over her. But yeah, she's talking once again about sanctions. If you guys saw her questioning yesterday, I believe it was in the Senate with Coinalyze, man, it was, or Chainalysis, it was really embarrassing. She kept pressing her point and her talking points. You know what? I'm going to bring on James. James, let's talk about this. James Harris, guys, from CryptoCompare. James, pleasure to have you here, man.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, no,
what do you make of this?
Really, really thrilled, actually. I mean, all I can say is that we're living in very interesting macro times, right? I think the Chinese have this curse. May you live in interesting times, and you can see what this means in real terms. I mean, you've got everything going on. CryptoCompare. We look at markets all the time, and we get these periods of macro-focused movements, and we're certainly going through that now. And we look at all these things, and your viewers can probably appreciate. We've got monetary drivers like disinflation trend and global tightening led by the Fed. And what are we going to do about Russia and Ukraine and official inflation running at 7 to 8%? But do you know what? I see real inflation much higher than that because all the stuff in the basket isn't stuff that I use every day, right? So inflation's much higher. You've got China announcing new mass lockdowns. It's not going to help the supply side of things. And so this is, of course, driving massive uncertainty in global asset markets, including crypto. You got commodity prices skyrocketing up, falling back a bit, but still very elevated, not helping the narrative really, is it, for the policymakers? So you got to pull one out for them and say, look, listen, this is a tough little gig, but equally, that is what they're being paid the big bucks for. Now, the weird thing about all this is that, for the last 3 years, 4 years, perhaps, Scott, you and I have been talking about the same thing. Like, these are the times that are coming, and this will be perfect for something like Bitcoin.
Sure.
Now, of course, that's not really been the case, right? We've seen Bitcoin come off like a risk asset, like everything else. But I have some little soothing little pieces of wisdom, perhaps, that might be useful to viewership.
We all need to be soothed, I think.
Soothing is good,
so
especially
soothe away.
Like you, I have 2 kids, and I periodically don't sleep. So, I feel your pain sometimes, and I agree with you also that the work begins in the weekend, the real work anyway. But we've seen macro events like this before, and we had little wobbles in 2016, another wobble in 2018, and what you see crypto prices beginning to correlate quite heavily with risk assets, and that lasts for a period of maybe 60, 80 days. And then it starts uncoupling and starts trading by itself. Now, if you can say, well, maybe these macro wobbles began mid-December, early Jan, well, we're almost through it, right? So there's a little bit of hopium there for you. Also, it's very true that, we're coming up to tax year in the US, and I think it's the 18th of April this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Almost exactly a month.
Yeah, it's usually the 15th. I think it's the 18th because of the weekend or something. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm not normally the tax reminder guy, so sorry about that, guys. But what I would say is that there is weakness periodically, seasonality. About 30 days before tax day in the US, we see drags on markets. So look, the good news is that we've had everything thrown at it, right? We've had war, we've had inflation, we've had global monetary tightening, and yet we're still here. Markets, Bitcoin's off, 15% on the year? That's no biggie. Obviously, it was down a lot more in February, but markets held their lows when Russian boots went into Ukraine, and they haven't been seen again. So I'm beginning to feel a little bit bullish.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you there, and it's interesting. We've seen actually dramatic volatility in every other market, and Bitcoin's been boring. Right. So the Bitcoin's just basically been $40,000. Yeah, give it $3,000 on either side, $4,000 on either side, but that's the expected daily volatility of an asset like this. Facebook can go down 30% in 1 hour. Right. Nickel can go up 300 300% in a matter of hours. This is not normal, right?
No.
And so sort of the narrative that Bitcoin is too volatile or too unstable, all of these things is interesting. And that brings me actually something you guys obviously do at CryptoCompare. Obviously, one of your key jobs is offering an accurate price of Bitcoin, right? And then to that end, and I don't know if we want to get into this, but one of the reasons we don't have a spot ETF in the United States is because they say that we can't mark to market or get an accurate price for Bitcoin and that it's too volatile. Well, we now know that it's less volatile than stocks at the moment. So that's a nonsense argument. And you guys can give an accurate price of Bitcoin. So talk about how you do that and why that's important.
Yeah, okay. There's quite a lot to unpack there, but let's start. And so a little bit on what we do. CryptoCompare is a digital asset market data provider. We're a global leader in that field. And you can think of us like a Bloomberg or a Refinitiv, maybe without the news, right? And so what we do is we connect to over 200 exchanges and we pull data from them. And one of the big value propositions for our users is that they can use our single API to connect to all of them, right? But really, our biggest value proposition is that we provide this notion of aggregated pricing, i.e. what is the price of Bitcoin or any other asset for that matter. So, somebody might say to you, hey, Scott, what's the price of Bitcoin right now? And you could turn around and say, well, what, on Huobi, on Coinbase, on FTX? What do you mean? Like, what you need is an average, really, that is useful. So anyone like who's a bank or a broker or a fund, a custodian, you name it, they're going to need to take a single value for that. And so I think solving that problem is the interesting approach. Now, ourselves and our peers take a sort of a volume-weighted approach, where you look at exchanges sort of on an average perspective, you look at an exchange's volume contribution, and then you take their price in proportion to that volume. So you then get an average price. But what we do, I think, which is a little different, is we also assess an exchange in terms of what is the counterparty risk involved with trading with such an exchange. So there's a research element to our approach too. And we grade exchanges in a process called the Exchange Benchmark Review, which is due out. The next edition is due out next week, and we grade exchanges over a whole host of things, like where are they incorporated? Are they regulated? Do they use custodians? Do they have insurance? Do they use market surveillance? That kind of stuff. And then on the exchange themselves, what do their markets look like? What are the volumes like? What does their trading API look like? That kind of thing. Put it all together, and it spits out a sort of Standard & Poor's style grading, which runs from AA to F. And we only take exchanges into our pricing methodology, which are AA to B, which is basically top tier. So you've already got this qualitative approach, a quantitative approach of saying, okay, these exchanges are trustable, i.e. you can trade on them and institutions can trade on them. Therefore, the prices that they're used to blend and create this global average are representative of the market and useful to institutions and retail alike. So that's roughly what we do. And those prices then feed into other interesting things like indices, which are then the pricing factors for things like exchange traded funds that you mentioned before. So unfortunately, the US is a little behind the curve, say on Canada for once. Canada's got a fantastic ETF suite of products, and we provide settlement prices to them. There are plenty you can check out. I'm not sure how much I should be name dropping, so I've got to be a little careful. But I
know Van Eck uses you guys, obviously. And,
there's Van Eck and there's 3IQ, and there's some wonderful players there that use our product. But I think your other question related to why isn't there a US ETF yet? Well, one is definitely a market integrity question, and I think we were speaking with the SEC commissioner, and he said, "Look, we have purview over US markets, and we need to make sure those are okay. But if global markets influence them, we can't control those, right? So that's one key problem that we're trying to solve. But I think actually also a key question here is surveillance, and digital asset exchanges haven't really been surveillable and therefore accountable. And so this is something that CryptoCompare is working on with other luminaries like Solidus Labs, where we're trying to collaborate together and talk about cross-market surveillance mechanisms to help this kind of thing, because we think that will be the key to the US saying, okay, these markets are fair game. you talk about nickel, right, on LME. I mean, the LME displayed all of the integrity of a pre-2015 crypto exchange, right?
Yeah, I mean, but
It's
yeah,
insane.
like maybe Mount Gox level.
Right, yeah, or worse, perhaps. I mean, basically busting trades to save a stakeholder. I mean, really, that's as bad as it gets. So really, all of those arguments that you mentioned, high volatility, okay, we've seen that elsewhere. Integrity, well, we've seen that being ripped up when a stakeholder squeals, right? So here we are. Digital assets, pretty clean shirt right now.
Yeah, I mean, don't we have like leveraged marijuana ETFs? Come on, right?
Indeed.
But the reason, a lot of it is, I mean, just circling back before I let you go, not to pick on Elizabeth Warren, but I mean, a lot of it is because of the same narratives that she either is pushing because she doesn't understand or she legitimately believes. I don't know, right? But we still have this stigma only for criminals and the electricity, and it's gonna circumvent sanctions. Like, wouldn't you think as a progressive that someone like Elizabeth Warren would be saying, wow, $100 million has been donated to Ukraine in crypto? That's great for people. I think that we're still stuck on these old narratives, and it's just not true. They could obviously make a spot ETF work.
No, I agree. Isn't it funny how situations like these really show who the paymasters really are and how one's incentives can be aligned to the paymasters in the end, which is, I think, Elizabeth Warren, as you say, should be progressive, maybe having to default to something else here. But, her sanctioning is going after, say, digital asset exchanges that look at Russian entities. That's just an extension of what's being done here. But I think you probably saw the Credit Suisse strategist, right, coming out with some very interesting comments about potentially Bretton Woods 3 coming out, right? And if you see someone's foreign exchange reserves, right, you are literally putting a signpost saying your fiat assets aren't really worth all that much. If I can take them away from you whenever,
not yours. They're literally not yours.
They're literally not yours, right? Be your own bank and all that. Well, that's not possible in fiat instruments. It's very clear. So again, we are seeing shifting sands here, which will usher in a new era, and I believe it will be a positive one for digital assets.
Love it, James. I love it. And thank you for your insight. You are welcome back literally anytime.
I'd love to.
I saw people in the chat. They're like, James was born for interviews. I love his painting. You're getting a lot of his accent. You're getting a lot of comments.
Hey, Scott, can I ask you a question? We've got this conference coming up in London on the 30th. I'd love to have you there in any shape or form. Do you think you can make it over?
Of March?
Yes. A little late notice.
Really soon. I'll check my schedule. Let's talk about it offline. But I mean, I want to go to London. I like
nice.
London.
Well, if any of your viewers are around in Europe or in London, we created a code called Wolf100. So go to our website, buy a ticket, use that code, Wolf10, and there'll be a little discount for your viewers to come and join. It'd be fantastic.
Nice, pleasant surprise. I had no idea. Awesome. There we are. I would love to come. Let's do that. Okay, we'll talk about it offline. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much. Bye.
First time I've gotten invited to a foreign country while on my live stream speaking at the conference. That's awesome. James gets a Guest of the Year award. Guest of the Year award for James Harris, guys. Everybody check out CryptoCompare. Also, I forgot to ask, but he's Jem Harris, JEMHARRIS 11 on Twitter if you want to check him out. Yeah, a lot of really great context there, and I think it always blows my mind how smart the people are in this space and how much is happening behind the scenes to legitimize crypto and to make it easier for all these institutions. It's so funny looking back for me on like 2017, 2016 when I got here. I remember 2017 in the bull run, and we were like, institutions are here, man. Like Bitcoin's going up because the institutions are buying. And you look back now and think like, I don't know, was Elon Musk and Tesla really going to buy $1.5 billion of Bitcoin and like throw it on a ledger somewhere if we didn't have the tools or any of the really infrastructure now? And I think that because of people like CryptoCompare and others, we're really building an infrastructure where governments and global financial markets, we can actually operate on their level. And I think it's really, really extremely important. So moving on, I'm just going to let you guys look at these two for a second again. Handsome women. Anyways, here we go. Continuing on. Popular Bitcoin strategy loses shine as U.S. inflation nears 8%. Ouch. Still, crypto real yields remain relatively attractive to traditional markets and can continue to draw investors, some observers say. If you guys aren't familiar with what they're talking about. It is the cash and carry strategy, which I've described to you guys many times before. Literally free money. Literally free money. You have access to this trade. You buy spot Bitcoin, you short the future, and you make free money on the spread. It's the way you earn yield. It's a way that a lot of platforms in CeFi and DeFi are actually earning yield for you. And the reason that a lot of those yields might potentially be dropping on the platforms that you love. Basically, right now, if you utilize this strategy, you're making about 3%, I believe, on your money. But with inflation at 7 or 8%, we all know it's higher. That means that you're seeing actually a negative real yield of about minus 4% if you try to use the cash and carry strategy. So it's being somewhat abandoned. Bitcoin mining difficulty drops for second time in March. No surprises here. They interviewed my friend Whit Gibbs from Compass Mining. You guys know I'm a huge fan and user, and somebody's cleaning my car outside. So if you guys hear that, sorry. Bitcoin mining difficulty dropped second time. A lot of this has to do with what's happening in Kazakhstan. Of course, after China went offline, a lot of the mining moved obviously to the United States, but a large portion to Kazakhstan. They've had major electricity issues with rolling blackouts. They've been turning off the miners. As I told you, they banned about over 100 illegal miners in the last few weeks. And now you've seen what energy costs are like, right? It's very, very hard, depending on where you are in the world right now, with the prices of electricity and energy to be profitable mining Bitcoin. So difficulty in the hash rate has dropped. I'm going to take a really quick look at the Bitcoin chart. We haven't looked at it in a while because I don't know. I hate being bored and I like fun. And this is not offering me the opportunity for fun at the moment. Look at this. I mean, this is just an absolute train wreck. You look at it zooming out on the weekly. I mean, all we have is a million wicks up and down, absolutely chopping up anyone who's trying to trade this. Interestingly, something I pointed out in the newsletter this morning that is worth taking a look at, and something I was talking about at the time. If you look at the last bottom here, when we were last summer in June and July, I talked about this all the time. We had these massive wicks down on almost every candle, right? This is a very, very, very clear indication that we were seeing tons of demand. Every time Bitcoin dropped near 30, 32, 33, 28, it was being bought up like crazy. Well, at the moment, we have the opposite of that, right? Every time Bitcoin tries to move up, we have selling pressure, price being pushed down. So to me right now, this weekly candle is actually pretty important, right? We have 2 more days to see when it closes. If it can close higher and sort of fill in any of these wicks, that will mean that the sellers are finally losing strength and price could potentially be going up. Would basically be like what we were seeing here, right? We had demand here, we had some demand here, but now if you take a look at this, a whole lot of selling, but really not much to see. Next story I just really like, and of course we have an ad right in the front. Over 30 Alona scam tokens spawn after verbal clash between Musk and Kadyrov. Of course, this guy calls Elon Musk Alona to insult him. And so we get 30 scammers trying to create tokens in the name or capitalize on the hype in the most crypto fashion ever, right? Absolutely ridiculous. But this Twitter spat between the two of them is so really entertaining. Ooh, that's not what I meant to do. I'm producing myself. Look, fun. So basically, we all know that Elon Musk said that he would challenge Vladimir Putin to single combat for the future of Ukraine. Right. And the president of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, said, you don't want to do that. Vladimir Putin is 17 feet tall, has fought 19 bears at one time, and can kill you with his pinky finger. And basically insulted Musk over and over again, as if Musk was serious and this guy had to come defend Putin's honor. Really, really entertaining. Here was the original tweet by Musk. I hereby challenge, that says Vladimir Putin to single combat. And then this dude went on an absolute rampage about all the reasons that Vladimir Putin could beat up Elon Musk, basically. There were some amazing quotes. I got to find them here. Oh, whatever. I don't have it. Continuing on, GameStop misses earnings estimate, plans to launch NFT marketplace. I mean, this is a really surprising story because we all definitely thought that a brick and mortar store that sells video games would be largely successful. No, we wouldn't. Right. GameStop is a blockbuster that got really lucky that a bunch of kids on the internet decided to pump up their stock, but that doesn't mean that GameStop has actual value, right? Right. Well, yeah, they missed earnings because it's still a really shitty business, frankly. But they're going to open an NFT marketplace and maybe crypto can come in and save GameStop. We shall see. And finally, this is really kind of a crazy story. And I tried to dig into it a bit in like the 5 minutes I had, and it's very unclear what's actually happening here. But Russia's largest bank to issue digital financial assets following approval. Now, Sparebank, 2 years ago, I had Mark Yusko on the podcast, and he said to me, Sparebank is it's the best bank in the entire world. And he said, this is the most impressive, most powerful, legit bank in the world. Of course, it's part of the Russian government. Well, now getting absolutely destroyed here. And so they're making a move to digital assets. But as I dug into the story, it's kind of strange. I couldn't quite understand exactly what they're doing in the digital asset space. They said basically they're going to allow people to create their own digital assets en masse to be able to move their money around effectively, institutions, and that they're going to be launching this sort of marketplace in the next month, launching a stable coin as well called Sparecoin, of course. So, this is really, Russia has been playing ping pong right now on their opinion. This reminds me of China back in the day. Remember when China used to ban and unban crypto every 13.7 seconds? What's happening in Russia, right? We had the central bank come out and say, we're going to ban mining, we're going to ban crypto. A week later, Vladimir Putin said, I don't think so. I think we're going to regulate it and utilize it, basically going 180 degrees in the other direction. And now that's what we're seeing here from Sparebank. So it's going to be interesting to see this story unfold, find out what is going to happen with digital assets in Russia. If you ask Elizabeth Warren, this is probably a way for every criminal on the planet to avoid some sort of sanctions. So I'm looking at the comments over here, and I see a whole lot of bitching about our new time. I can't get it right. It's not my fault that we did the time change here, right? Americans are strange, and we expect you all to orbit around us, right? We're the center of the universe here, and everything orbits around us. Isn't that how it works? So we will discuss this weekend whether to take it back to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 9:30. I'm gonna let you guys spam the chat again right now, and whichever time I see the most of, 9:30 or 10. This was 9:30 for those of you in other places. We'll choose. Can we just meet in the middle and do 10 a.m.? I don't know where you are, man, but I used to do 10 a.m. Are you? No, I'm not. No, that's pushing it later. You're an hour behind me. Wow, you guys. I love the time. Don't bitch. Then, of course, you guys are all over the place. You guys are all over the place. I don't know. I will say that we have less people watching since we changed the time, so maybe that's a good indication. But anyways, guys, it's the weekend. It's the freaking weekend, baby. Go have you some fun. Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to quote R. Kelly anymore. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that. But you should have you some fun. Habib, of course, coming in with the inappropriate 69 for timing. 9:30. Oh my gosh, brutal. 420. Haha. 24/7. We can do that. Yeah, you guys have, not unsurprisingly, who've helped none. So I appreciate that. Guys, today was the second day also of the completely free newsletter. It's going to be free forever. So you guys check that out down in the link. And that's basically all I've got for you guys today. I have to go record a podcast in a few minutes. So without further ado, enjoy your weekend.